What are the stories behind your tattoos? They do have a lot of stories. This one, cards, had a massive gambling addiction. Had fucking, probably the hardest thing that I've ever had, the hardest thing that I've ever overcome. Gambling itself was fucking devastating for me. Very fucking like crushing. It's very crushing to your like dignity to not be able to stop doing something. So I understand addiction when people like drug addicts or something like that. I have been a cokehead as well, but it didn't compare to gambling. I was a cokehead, but I wasn't like someone who had to do it every fucking second. I just still used to do it every day, but I wasn't someone who needed it every fucking minute just to function. But gambling itself, I couldn't stop. Like it started in the army. It started out like on the pokies or the poker machines. And it started out fucking like quite innocently where I played and I remember I had a win. So I won. And I wasn't like a fucking rich dude. I was just a soldier. So I was taking home maybe like 500 or 600 Australian a week at the end of the week. So I didn't have a lot of money. I think I won like 2K at the pub on the Where's the Gold. And fucking that's still like my favorite machine to this day. I love that fucking like Where's the Gold feature. But yeah, I remember I won. And then it started like just a desire to play more, like play more. In my family, there's like, gambling is very fucking like, yeah, it's quite common. You know, it's very much in like, when I was younger, it was around, like people used to play cards and gamble and things like that, like a friendly sort of games. Gambling was quite like fucking, yeah, quite normal. It's just a normal thing that used to happen. Got like a Macedonian sort of side of the family, and that's gambling is pretty common. But yeah, so that was to me the hardest thing that I've ever had to overcome. I remember it started innocent. I fucking had a win, and then yeah, it just creeped up. You know, I'd go to the pubs where I'd have my girl with me at the time, and I just wouldn't want to fucking spend time with her. I'd just pretty much tell her to go away, and I would just play the pokies more and more. And then I noticed that it just crept up. I wouldn't be playing like as innocently anymore. I'd be losing more money. I'd be losing. See, the hardest thing with the pokies that I fucking struggled with was not so much the lost money, it's the time. It's very time consuming because you're up, because you're down. Sometimes you just fucking like wiped out in like 20 minutes, but other times it's like you're still going for hours, but it always generally ends the same way. I would not really leave up. You know, maybe it'd be like 5% of the time I would leave with a win, maybe like 1 in 20. And then if I won like a few K, I would just go back like for the next week and lose it all, and then some. It was a very bad addiction. And then when I started like fucking selling dope, it had spiraled like into even worse. I would play every day. I'd spend like a few K a day at the pokies. And then yeah, it's not only just the casino. I'd go to the casino a bit, but it'd be more like the pubs, the hotels themselves. It'd be like an impulse thing. Like I'd have friends, like my friend or friends, and we'd just be like, yeah, let's go to the pokies, put like $1,000 in. But we'd do that like a couple of times a day. And then, yeah, it was fucking very difficult to stop. It was a tough fucking addiction to crack. I'd have times where I would gamble so much that I would get home and then fucking like go to lay down to go to sleep, and I would hear the fucking like gambling tunes like running through my head. I couldn't fucking like relax at all. I would get like a physical fucking sensation to gamble. It wasn't so much like a mental thing. I would lose so much money, and then especially when I had a girlfriend at the time, like I was still in the army, I'd go home and be like, I've fucking like blown the rent money. You know, like I've got fucking nothing to pay the rent. I don't have fucking jack shit. And I've done this like multiple times now. Like, I don't know what to tell her anymore. Sometimes she would be like, this guy's off like fucking girls, because I'd just go missing. But actually, like a lot of the time I was just gambling. But yeah, I remember gambling itself. I remember just being in so much pain that I would be like, how can someone be in so much pain and not die? Like sometimes I would just gamble and fucking like just be completely crushed. Like I would think that, yeah, just how can someone like be in such a painful time, like their fucking like insides are fucking like screaming and just no one knows. Like I'd walk around and just pretend that I wasn't gambling, like I'd see my girl or whatever and just not fucking say anything. But inside I'm like fucking like gonna explode. Like I'm fucking like just got this like festering wound inside that no one knows about. And that's what gambling felt like to me. It's not like drugs or booze or something, because people can tell when you're fucked up. Like if you're drunk, like it's fucking pretty obvious if you're an alcoholic. I mean, you know, you can only fucking hide it for so long. Like people are gonna be like, this guy's drunk half the time. Like he gets in the car and he can't even fucking drive. Drugs is the same. Like if you're fucked up nearly every day, it's pretty fucking obvious. Like you're not gonna be able to function. But gambling, you can be a very high functioning gambling addict and still fucking like no one knows. It's just obvious later on, like that money's missing and things like that, but they can't really put their finger on it. Like gambling itself, you could just have like the fucking sports bet app and just be sitting on the couch and lose your whole money in like 1 hour. And then your girl's like, he didn't even leave the house, like what the fuck's going on? So it's more of like an insidious problem, and that's how it can get so bad, because it can be hidden for so long. Like a drug addiction, you can't hide it from your partner for that long. Like they're gonna fucking catch on, especially if you live together. But gambling, yeah, I hid it for a fucking long time. I hid it for a fucking massively long time. And then it had its consequences, you know, like it fucking ate at me. And then, yeah, selling dope, I was gambling more than ever. And then it wasn't really until I went to prison that I fucking like stopped. I mean, up until prison, I was still gambling, but much less. Then I went to prison and got out, and I realized a lot of the guys that were in there gambled. A lot of the guys that I knew that sold dope predominantly gambled. I realized a lot of the fucking game of selling drugs was to gamble. Like you're funding a fucking addiction. So, yeah, I decided that at that time that I would quit. And then when I got out, I didn't fucking do it again. I was banned from every venue anyway. But of course I could have still went. I could have still played online. I had like fucking access to all that shit. I mean, I've got a lot of crypto, so I could have fucking done all that shit if I wanted to. And that's not to say that I don't go to the casino maybe like once or twice a year now. But I don't ever play the poker machines. You'll never see me on the pokies. I mean, I used to play fucking 2 at a time, like $50 bets at the casino. I used to play 2 at a time at the pub, $5 bets if that was all that I could play. I used to play at fucking like Springfield Lakes Hotel. I used to play fucking, even this is like not that long, like years ago, but still, like, I'd play every now and then. I know that if I play, I get like fucking, I could get hooked again. I know that it has like, the poker machine specifically would have a hold on me. So I don't fucking tempt fate. I think that for anyone, everyone has like a poison. That if, and I've known fucking addicts, I know some fucking dork will be like, oh no, I couldn't be affected, man. Like, oh, I just go to church and I do all this crap. Everyone has a poison, and you just haven't found it yet. A lot of you guys are fucking like, never even fucking tried jack shit, and then you'll turn around and be like, no, it couldn't be me, man. Like, I wouldn't do that. You don't fucking, like, you haven't been tempted. That's the difference. It could be sex, porn, fucking like food. A lot of you will say, oh, I don't have any addiction, and then you're fucking like, can't even see your dick. Like, your addiction's just extremely obvious. It's fucking food. Fucking dumb. So yeah, the hardest addiction was gambling, to give up. It really fucking like takes a lot out of you. It really fucking like eats your soul away. And sometimes like parts of that is gone forever. You know, like takes a part of you, like an addiction. It's like fucking, you've got to rebuild yourself, but like some of the bricks are missing. It's just how it is. And why I quit gambling. And that's not to say that I never gamble. You know, I still go to the casino, like I said, every now and then. But I don't have an addiction. But why I quit gambling, and that's much of why I quit like drugs themselves. I was at the casino, and I was about to leave the casino, and fucking I'd gambled like maybe like 10K. And I'd been there for fucking, I remember I was there for like the whole day, maybe like 10 hours or something. And I kept like winning and losing, and fucking like, I remember I just wanted to lose. Like I used to stay there till I lost. Gambling itself for me, it got to a point where I just pretty much like have to unload the money. Like I just had to get rid of it. So I think that it was like a deeper fucking psychological thing. But I think with PTSD or any sort of trauma, the poker machines themselves are very like therapeutic. They're quite relaxing. Because when the wheels and that are spinning, you're not really thinking of anything else. It's almost like ecstatic, which I've heard from people that fucking like do a lot of drugs. They say that it's like a complete mind clearer. And poker machines are quite like that for me. Like if I sit in front of the poker machines for an hour or two, it can almost feel like I'm only there for like 10 minutes. So I think that, yeah, it's a mind clearer. And why I fucking quit the drugs at the same time was, I remember I was just leaving the casino, and it fucking took me ages to lose this money. And then I saw my reflection in the mirror. Like there was a mirror out, this was like Brisbane Treasury Casino. It's like a mirror, near the exit. And I saw myself, and I saw how fucking skinny I'd gotten, and how like fucking I look real strung out, but I look so tired. Like my eyes were all fucked up because I've been staring at the screens for that long. And then I just remember like looked at myself, and I must have been like fucking under 80 kilos. I was probably like 78, 75 kilos or something. I'm usually fucking like, I'm 90 now. I remember in the army I was like 100. And then I just remember seeing myself and being like, my neck and my face had gotten so fucking skinny. My fucking arms were skinny, but I was wearing like baggy shit, and I still knew how skinny I was. And that was, yeah, just a massive turning point for me. Seeing myself and seeing like that fucking like moment of, I wasn't like real proud of myself where I'd fucking ended up. Because I had a drug trafficking charge at the same time. So I knew I was fucked at the same time. But then I was still gambling at the casino. Like I was fucking going to jail, I thought for 10 years plus. Drug trafficking, you've got to serve 80% of your sentence. It was under VLAD, that was new. Vicious, lawless, fucking, the gang fucking bullshit act that they'd introduced. They'd introduced that just before I got charged. And I got charged under VLAD, so it was an SVO, which makes it a serious violence offence, even though it's drug trafficking. So you've got to do 80% of your time. And most guys were getting over 10 years. So I was like, oh, well, I'm gone for 8 years. So I thought that I was fucked. But then they didn't have that good of a case against me. So I got it down to supplies, many supplies, and many other fucking charges, but that's the game. Sometimes you can only fucking like maneuver in one direction. Let's go fucking next question. If someone wants beef but they are a gangster's son and have a lot of powerful contacts, do I try to de-escalate or respond the same way they come at me? Well, it depends who you are. Like shouldn't really be starting beefs with fucking like people who are important. And not just that, people who are fucking sons of dangerous men. Because often their sons themselves have something to prove. Like they feel like they have to prove something to be like their father. So I would say they're actually more dangerous than the father themselves. So obviously it depends who you are. If you're a fucking normal dude, you shouldn't even be in this position. And if you don't have a crew, you shouldn't be in this position. Because what happens is, a lot of you guys don't really understand how shit works on the street. Everyone has a crew. Like the only guy who fucking runs around and does shit on his own is a fucking pleb. Like a lot of you guys think that you're criminals and you're not even making like $1 million a year. If you're not making $1 million a year, like doing crime, like you're not even on the radar for me. Like you're a fucking dork doing like fucking like, may as well be running around stealing handbags, like that's crap. So yeah, if you're just a normal dude and you're finding yourself in problems with fucking sons of gangsters, that's pretty fucking dumb. And not only that, it's like, what's the upside for you? Like, what's the benefit? Like, what are you getting out of this? Is this just some fucking ego game that you're playing? Because it can be very dangerous for you. And then again, like, you need a crew. Like, if you fucking don't have a crew or you're just fucking like, just one out or something, that's a very bad position to be in. You need a crew. Like, I don't know how many times I have to say it. Everyone who's anyone has a crew. Like, there's no fucking like one out dudes running around trying to be like fucking Mr. like special forces, dude. That's bullshit. So yeah, you shouldn't be having these sort of problems. You got to wonder what's in it for yourself. Like, you're making powerful enemies. I'm sure he knows shitloads of people if his dad's important. And what's the upside to you? Are you trying to like be a tough guy? Because if you're asking this question, you're obviously not about it. Like, you would have already fucking like acted. Don't need to fucking ask questions. So I would de-escalate if I was you. And I would think like, why do I want to get in these sort of problems? You know, these problems that can roll with you forever. If he's really about it, you could just be walking down the street and two dudes with baseball bats just beat the fuck out of you. And then you'll be like, oh, I don't understand what happened. Just because they want to make a stand. Or he just like said having a bad day and you fucking like piss him off and he's like, let's fucking get this little cocksucker. So it's pointless. Like, I don't know what's in it for you. Like, are you trying to build a name in the area? If you are, like, it sounds like you're picking powerful enemies to sort of like do. Conflict is not good for business. Everyone knows that. Like, a lot of the fucking guys in Australia don't really understand that because it's a bit of a circus there, but conflict is not ideal. Like, it's not fucking very good for business because it gets a lot of police attention straight away. So if you're doing anything, it's all scrutinised straight away. We know that. Like, over here, everyone understands that conflict is the last fucking thing that you want. Specifically open conflict, because everyone's business is now in jeopardy because the police get more funding, they get more of a task force, specifically if it makes it in the news. So, like, if you start a problem with him and you retaliate, or like he gets in trouble somehow for something that he's doing, or his dad gets investigated or something like that, you can cause a lot of fucking problems for yourself, and it just over something silly. Like, it sounds like some sort of ego beef. Like, if you're not that guy, it's not really fucking like worth it to you. If you don't have a crew, and they're not, and the thing with having a crew, you have a responsibility then. Like, anything that you take on, they're taking on. And see, you shouldn't have these like small fucking crap beefs and all this garbage, because if you do have a crew, it's not just you, it's them. Like, they might have to go to jail for this crap, just some fucking like ego beef that you're having. And that's dumb. It's not fucking like ideal. It's not a good strategy. All right, I've got a question here. What is your opinion on the Tate brothers? I've met the Tates. I met them at a fucking like yacht party, and I met them at an event after. I met fucking Andrew for a brief time. I spoke to him for quite a brief time. It wasn't like a fucking long conversation. But I've spoken to his brother Tristan for a considerably longer time. Maybe we talked for like maybe an hour or something. And I would say that I was very impressed by both of them. I would say that a lot of times I've met a lot of guys, like I've met a lot of fucking guys that are like, people view them as like a heroic figure, sort of, I think, like, or a mentor or something like that. And I would say in most cases, don't meet your hero. Like, if you meet your hero, you're going to be very disappointed. A lot of it is just smoke and fucking like marketing strategies and fucking tactics. And you think that they're a certain way, but really they're just grifting you. Like, that's just all bullshit. It's just an act. But I would say with the Tates, from my impression, which is a fucking high level impression, I'm a very good reader of people. They are exactly as they advertise. They're the same fucking dude. I was somewhat surprised in a way, because I hadn't really fucking seen that before. I've seen a lot of these influencers, although I wouldn't consider them solely influencers. They have a massive influence. But yeah, they were much the same. I remember when I first met Tristan, I was surprised that he's so fucking like big. He's very tall. He's a big fucking guy. Met him on the yacht, and then I talked to him after. He's very intelligent with history. I was, again, somewhat surprised. He's a very deep thinker. Talked a lot of like complicated topics around history, and yeah, he's very smooth. He's a very well spoken. He was not trying to be some fucking like scary dude running around, even though he's big. He's still like, he advertises. He's I would say, a gentleman that can bust someone up if he wants to. I think that's probably the best way to be. And I met, so Tate, I met his brother Andrew, and then, I would say it's exactly the same as he's advertised online. I think they genuinely want to help people, like they genuinely want to help men. I have a lot of respect for them, because they were already rich before they turned on the camera. They didn't just get rich online. Like, they didn't get rich fucking, like, talent convincing you to send them money. They were already rich when they turned on the camera. They already had a massive story before they turned on the camera. They're quite warrior type people. I think that in general, they wouldn't back down from any conflict or challenges. I think that they're very masculine. It's hard to separate them, because I talk to them both much the same, like the same time. But I would say they're quite similar, but then somewhat different. Tristan is a massive dude, very tall. But I was impressed. I think that they, genuinely want to help guys, specifically younger guys, I think. And I think that they do have very much to offer. And it is a big tribute to their success. I think that it's very well earned. I think that they do have a lot of substance. Like, Tristan was talking about history, he was talking about his kickboxing as well. I talked to him about that. He's very interesting guys. And they do deserve much of their success. I've seen that they've been cancelled. It makes me sort of wonder why they got cancelled. Obviously, their message is very different to the soy boy narrative that gets spread. I think that they're considered a danger to the sort of matrix establishment that's set up, the fucking like monopoly of information that they want pumped out to guys. I think that the message that the Tates send out is a message that guys can be essentially anything that they want. And that goes kind of against setting guys up to be like slaves and like wage cucks and fucking like accept their lot in life as like just subscribe to chicks only fans and that they won't even like fucking have any success with women. I think a lot of the Tate's messages hope to guys. And then I've got to wonder why that message gets cancelled. Do they want you hopeless, like the establishment? I think that, yeah, I met them in Dubai. I think that they're a very good fit for UAE. I think that they have a lot of morals. I could tell that they had integrity. I can tell that they had a substance. They got a very strong foundation. They know who they are. And they know the message that they want to get out to guys. And I respect that because I know that they don't need the money. Like I know that they haven't needed the money for a fucking very long time. So yeah, I do respect them for pushing the message out. They were with another guy that I respect greatly. His name's Jules. And yeah, I think that together they all deserve their success and they all make a great team. And they're, I think, heading even bigger things. I think that despite being cancelled, the thing with the truth, it's like anything. Like you can bury it, but it's eventually going to get out. Like you can only bury the truth for so long. And it will eventually find its way out. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I think a lot of guys know that a lot of the shit they're told is like fucking fantasy. And then guys like that come out and say the truth and they get an audience fast and then the establishment shuts them down. But just because you cut a man's tongue out, that doesn't mean that the message he said wasn't fucking like true, and doesn't mean that the message isn't going to get spread. That's essentially what they've done. He's fucking like running around telling the truth, and then they took his tongue out, like taking off, like cancelling him on fucking some of the platforms. And I saw that he's been talking on Rumble and fucking like some of the other platforms that are like a bit more like fair. You know, you can say certain things and not get cancelled. So I think that that's a good fit for them. I think that they're destined to be even bigger. And yeah, I do have a lot of respect for them. A lot of respect that they were wealthy before they turned the camera on. They didn't need the money. The message that they're sending out is a very fucking strong one. The message that they're sending out to young guys is very solid. I think that if you emulate what they say, like you'll be heading for at least a fucking like quite a good position. I'm not saying that you'll be fucking rolling around in a Bugatti, but you could be. But if you emulate the shit that you're told by fucking like a lot of the press and the fucking like corpos and the government and things like that, I don't know, like your end game. A lot of you are just set up to be like massive consumers. So yeah, I do respect them. I've met them and yeah, I find them interesting guys. They're very much the same as, I haven't watched all of their shit. I'm not saying I'm some fucking like expert, but I would have watched like a few hours of their stuff for sure. And I would say that they're very much the same off camera as they are on camera. And I was quite surprised how funny, like Andrew Tate himself, he is quite a funny guy. And they're both interesting guys. You know, they're not fucking like, yeah, they're definitely their own unique people. They're not fucking like trying to be anyone else. They're just doing their own thing, and I respect that. You know, they're definitely men. What's the best thing about your life? The best thing about my life is the freedom. Like I have freedom of movement, freedom of fucking like expressing my ideas. Like I can jump on here and talk about whatever the fuck I want. I don't have to sit there and think like, oh, my boss is going to cancel me because like I said that I had a fucking drug habit. I don't care. Like I can fucking have articles written about me online that I was like a fucking cokehead and all this other crap, and it doesn't fucking affect me. Because my fucking like skills are too extreme. Like my investing prowess is too high. I have too much value in that field to really like be cancelled, because I can still like fucking advise funds, which is partly one of the jobs that I do. I still have businesses, I still have a lot of money, I still have a lot of real estate. So it's very hard to fucking like cancel someone like me. I have the value. To cancel me, you'd have to kill me, because I still have value no matter what fucking like what happens. You know, I still have an audience. I'm building my audience on here because I want to build like a more fucking like large audience. You know, I want to get my message out to a bigger amount of people. And I would say part of what inspired that is actually fucking, I used to talk to that Kevin Samuels before he died. I probably talked to him for like 10 hours. And before he died, before he was like massive, this is probably where he had like 100K subs or something. And I used to talk to him, and he's part of what inspired me to fucking like get over that. Like, cause I had a fund, I used to have a crypto fund. And I got cancelled in fucking like, think it was 2018. We'd made investors a lot of money, but one day a rival fund leaked our fucking like my criminal history. He looked up this rival fund, I don't know if it's a he, I assume it's crypto, so I imagine it's a guy. But they looked up my documents, so like my incorporation documents for the company I was in. I was a partner, there were like 8 of us. And then he searched all my information, so he found my name on there and then searched my fucking name on the internet. And he found like my criminal history. And then he fucking like leaked it to like a news article thing that posted a big fucking article about fucking like, oh, this guy, like he was a member of this fund or a partner in this fund, and he's fucking got all these old charges. And then the projects themselves were like, oh, we can't, because they're raising money. So they're raising money in tech. So they're like, we can't really be linked to fucking like shit like this. Like it's a bad look. We're raising money in tech, so it's mostly blue-pilled like soy boys. And I understand that. So I had to fucking like step aside. I had to fucking like take the heat and be like, all right, well, I'll step back. Publicly, I'll be like, I'm done. Like I'll fucking like go back. I won't have anything to do with this because I don't want to take everyone else down with me. It's not their fault. And then, yeah, I had that fucking shit happen. And it wasn't fucking like that easy. That was somewhat of a low point. But I realized after that, like I was talking to Kevin Samuels, and fucking he told me just like accept the fucking shit happen, accept that people are gonna judge you on it, and just like fucking get over it, and just move forward. Don't fucking like, you know, never thought that I had to fucking like jump on and laugh and say, oh, I'm some fucking saint, because I'm not. People can look up the shit that I've done. Some of it's fucking like a little bit heightened, I think. Like it's presented in a way to make me look like a fuckwit, because of the fucking like dork who did the fucking like journalist. You only just have to look at his photo. He's a fucking like 5'4" manlet running around, and he fucking like had a massive problem with me. So yeah, I understand that it fucking, if I see a photo of someone and there's some fucking geek, like they're not gonna like me. I know that. So if they post fucking like make articles about me, it's not gonna be like fucking in my interest, like any advantage to me. It's all just gonna be shit like to make me look like the biggest fuckwit as possible. And that's partly, I think, why the article was presented that way. I think substantially, right, it's very correct. Like the charges and that are all fucking true. But how they've presented the information is presented in a way to make me look fucking like some retard. But that's just fucking life, you know? You can't control what other people say. You can't control what other people fucking think. That's life, you know? So, but he sort of like fucking helped me accept that. Like he said to me pretty much like, you can't change your past, you need to accept it. And you need to know one day, like you've got a story to tell. I know I've got a story to tell. Like I've had a fucking like interesting life. I was fucking, like I said, I was a 120 kilo Counter-Strike player, 260 something pounds. I was a Counter-Strike professional at 19. And then I became fucking like, went through the army, had a fucking bad accident. Went and fucking like gangstered on, fucking sold dope for years. Went to prison, learnt the fucking lessons, all that shit. Got out, ran a fund, crypto fund. Had fucking massive success. Massive success in crypto, massive success in other markets investing, success in business. I have a great network of people around me. Have a massive fucking network. Have good friends. Have massive like fucking substance. So I do have shit to talk about, you know, so I know that I can teach. And that's what I'm fucking here to do. So he had a massive amount of fucking, like I had a lot of respect for Kevin. I mean, I still fucking do. He's dead, but I still respect him. I consider him a mentor still. I don't watch his shit. Like obviously he's passed away. I don't really fucking like, I've said it before, I don't go to funerals. I don't really, like if someone dies, I don't like fucking get too caught up in like watching their stuff and stuff like that. I think life's meant to be moved forward. You don't get stuck in the past. But I do have a lot of respect for him. And yeah, he's sorely fucking missed. Seeing the feminist movement trying to emasculate men, what's your thoughts on that, and how do we combat that as a collective? It's a good question. I think that the feminist movement in general, it's spread by the corporations. See, a lot of guys don't understand that. They don't understand that the corporations are spreading it so that they can get women in the workforce because it keeps wages low. Like it keeps the wages more competitive, so the conditions are worse. Like if you halve the fucking, like if you cut half the people that can work out, they're gonna have to change the terms, so they have to give you better conditions for work. But if they fucking like flood the workforce, they don't have to treat you well. They don't have to give you like a lot of benefits or like good pay and shit like that because it's a saturated market in pretty much every market, except for tech. But even that's starting to get saturated now because they've like through the world they think that like two incompetent Indian dudes can do the same job as like a white dude, but then for like a quarter of the pay. So that's just the fucking game. Like the game's changed. Feminism itself is not like some fucking like, a lot of guys think that it's some like massive targeted attack on dudes. It's not. It's just greed. It's just the corpos fucking being greedy. Like they're spreading a lot of the propaganda through like the media sources and things like that to get women strong because then they fucking like want to enter the workforce and do all this crap. Get like educations and all this shit. And who do you think profits off that? It's just about money. Once you understand like things are about money and then as such about power, you don't take shit so personal. Like you understand that the funds specifically have massively fucking like invested interest in like pretty much degenerating the world. They profit off every fucking avenue. Like look at rap. They profit off the artists, but then they profit off fucking like people going to prison. They profit off pretty much everything. I'm sure even the dope game to a point they profit off. I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories, but I think that it's pretty fucking obvious. The like big pharma are pumping fucking money to these artists, and that's why they're fucking like promoting all these pill heads. So then people go and get like fucking Zanny habits and shit, like their hero. And who do you think makes money off that? And a lot of the shit now, the big money is in creating artificial stuff. The biggest money is always in making something that costs very little. Like cigarettes themselves were very profitable, but vape is even more profitable because it's just like you don't even need fucking like, it's all fucking like liquid bullshit. Like food is profitable, like buying a steak is profitable, but then you have to like do all the shit with the cow and like look after it and all this crap. Whereas if they can push you to like confectionery that they make out of China from fuck knows what, that's, the margins are massively more. So when they get you an artificial food, like obviously that's coming soon. It's only because the margins are massive, but how they convince you to take it is it'll be like some fucking like sustainable food or some crap. But really it's just because their margins become bigger. Like they've got less like overhead, less costs. They don't need like as much fucking like, if they're having like cows and stuff, there's a lot of work. Like a lot of work maintaining, transporting, like it can die, like shit can happen. Whereas if they start producing meat in like a laboratory, it's very easy to emulate, very easy to like scale and mass produce. So once you understand, like a lot of people take it so personal and think like part of why they're trying to get people to eat bugs and that is some like psychotic thing that they're going through. And I'm sure there are some people that are like that. But it's about profit margins. Like it's more profitable. It's just the margins of that sort of stuff are astronomical. Like bugs and that, if they get people to eat that stuff, like the margin's very high. It's very easy, like they don't have to fucking like maintain a lot of the, like there's not the standards. Like if they're insects or whatever, they don't have the same fucking rights as like chickens and shit like that. It's a lot cheaper to fucking like do on scale, and then their margins are just astronomical. So that's just the game. You know, like if you understand like shit, how shit works at a deep level, you'll always understand that it's about money. There are a few figureheads that they're like fucking shadow men that people like, oh, not shadow men, the actual figureheads themselves where people look at and they get angry at. That's just by design. Like anyone that you can see isn't the man. Like anyone that you can see and point out is not the boss. Like the boss is someone who doesn't want to be known. Like the bosses, they don't want to fucking like be in the newspaper because they control the papers. So when guys are talking about like Charles Schwab and all this crap, I just know that they're fucking like retards. They don't know jack shit. Like the World Economic Forum or whatever, like they're a long way from like even having like much of an impact on the world. This guy is coming up with a bunch of ideas that may be used like 100 years or so from now, yes. But this guy himself will be long dead by then. Like this guy himself, yes, he's got the nerds there that are building out the very platforms that will enslave you. He's exactly right. But a lot of these guys act like they've got like some fucking like secret military or something that they could handle any sort of like fucking like offensive skirmish. A lot of those guys won't affect time and space itself for like 100 years. But yes, they are building the fucking platforms that will enslave you, definitely. They'll give you pretty much no rights over not only your mind, but your own body. A lot of you guys, the information you take in is just fucking like already garbage. A lot of you guys are getting training your own minds to have like zero, like fucking like control of what goes through your head. Zero like attention span. Like a lot of you can't even get through like one fucking like TikTok clip. even if it's only like 10 seconds, it's like you have to just fucking pretty much scroll straight through. You don't understand that shorts and that, they're designed to like drain your attention span so that you need a lot of fucking like impulses all the time because it's a new dopamine hit. See, they know that. I know that because I've fucking dealt with addicts for forever. Like pretty much since like, yeah, like let's say 10 years. I know addicts extremely well. I know how to fucking like get shit out of them, like how to have an effect on them. They know that too. They have like fucking psychologists and specialists and psychiatrists and shit of like the behavioral fucking like analysts and that know how to build platforms out that like get the most out of people, like get the fucking like addiction the highest. Shorts are a way to do that because they get like one hit and then they scroll fast to the next. Each one's like a new fucking hit. They know that. And that's why a lot of them are controversial stuff that does well. It's not meant to be like shit that you really learn off. A lot of it's just fucking dumb stuff. A lot of guys do really dumb shit on TikTok and don't realize like that their dignity is fucking like in question. Like they're doing fucking like dumb dances and all this crap. They're getting attention, yes, but like a lot of these influencers to me, like a lot of these influencers that people even like, are just like a performing monkey. Like they'll say anything. They're like a chick addicted to clout. They'll say absolutely fucking anything to get your attention. Like they don't stand for fucking absolutely nothing. Like you would be fucking amazed. I've met many of these influencers. A lot of them don't even believe what they say. It's just a marketing strategy. They don't give a fuck about their viewers. They don't give a fuck about anything other than getting more clicks. That's changed narrative completely if it fucking meant that they got like another 1 million subs. They don't stand for shit. They don't have any substance. They're just like a fucking like monkey or like the clown running around the circus. It's fucking like very dumb. Do anything to keep the spotlight on him. Even if it means like chucking a bucket of water over his head. Don't give a shit about anything. Got no dignity, no fucking like self-respect. Like they might have self-respect, but they certainly don't have respect of men. There's only a few of these influencers that I've ever met that I found respectable. How can I help people who constantly tear things down for themselves? Can I help them? No. You can't help people that don't want to help themselves. And you can't help people that constantly tear things down because often they do it because they want to be a victim. Like they like to be in fucking like a bad position. I had it when I had this gambling addiction. I got addicted to the feeling of being like half buried. Like it's almost like I would be almost buried alive, but then I would get myself out of it. Like I would have fucking like be pretty much broke and I'd be like, how am I gonna fucking like pay rent or like, but then I would balance shit in some way that made it like fucking sort out. My girlfriend would be pissed off at me, but I'd like balance shit to get things back to normal. That sort of thing's addictive. That's like a lot of these like toxic fucking relationships and like waste dumps and all this shit through the States and like the West in general, that it's an addictive way. So when people do tear things down, often it is just for themselves. You know, like they're doing it because they're getting something out of it. Like if you find a person always in the same position, like it doesn't matter what you do, like you help prop them back up, but then they fall over again. A lot of the time they're exactly where they want to be. And it's hard to imagine that because if you're like a healthy person, you can't really understand that. But a healthy person can never, or like a healthy person with like, you know, like a sound mind can never understand everyone completely. There are like mentally ill people running around or people that are just like perpetual victims or people that want to have someone to blame all the time. You know, you help them up and then you're like responsible for them. That's addictive to a lot of people because they feel like their life, then they have someone to blame. So no, I don't think that you can help people. I think that you can help people, show them the way. Like I'm on here showing people the way, but I'm not the guy going to be in there lifting the weights for you. I'm not going to be the guy in there when you get the first smack in the mouth. You're going to be the one that fucking has to either fucking look down and fucking drop nuts and just be like coward for the rest of your life, or you're the one that needs to like make a fist and throw back. A lot of you don't fucking like have it in you. Throw back and then you'll be like, no man, I'm too smart. Oh, I wouldn't do that. You don't understand that that's like a very reference to fighting for yourself in life. A lot of you won't fight for a promotion at work. You won't fight for the job you want. You won't even fight for the chick that you want. Like you won't even fucking like make a stand. Like chicks treat you badly. You won't even like fucking tell her that it's unacceptable. Like you're in relationships and that you don't even want to be in. Some of you like just accepting behavior from people in general that you don't even like. You won't even confront someone, like a chick even, and just say like, I'm sick of how you talk to me. Like I don't fucking like it anymore. It's like smarten up or like get the fuck out. It's just part of it, you know, like confrontation that doesn't have to end in a fist fight. Doesn't have to end violently. Sometimes, or most, 90% of the time, it's just going to be you saying that that was unacceptable and you can walk away. But that's how you build like boundaries. That's how people start to respect you, because they're like, oh, I can't push this guy completely anymore. Like he's changing. Like he's not one of these paper dudes that just fucking like take unlimited shit. Your boss and that will be like, this guy's respectable now. Like he's showing some leadership qualities to him. Like he's not, I can trust him with shit because he's like taking responsibility. A lot of you guys can't get promoted at work because you just try to take absolute zero accountability and responsibility. Shit happens and you've always got someone else to blame. But your boss wants you to take the blame. Like then he thinks like, I can train this guy because he's accepting responsibility now. The buck's starting to stop with him, so I can teach this guy some shit. So you don't understand that. Do I envy those that made it in a single crypto pump? No. I don't envy anyone that made it in a crypto pump. I made money in the fucking hardest way that you could ever get rich. Why would I fucking envy someone that made it in crypto? I made money in an area where 99.9% of people either end up broke, dead, in jail, or fucking like crazy because they're fucking like fucked themselves up or seen too much bad shit that it's just like damaged them forever. So why would I envy someone who made it in crypto? On one pump. I don't envy them. I do have some fucking like, I've said that I pity them, and that is true. I pity them if they don't use it to become like a man. Like a lot of guys in crypto, they're just fucking like, they'll make money, but then still not like become a man. Some of them are millionaires and still live with mum, like mum and dad. Like they're still like fucking like a parasite living with their parents, and they'll justify it and then be like, oh no, like my mum likes me around. Like a lot of you just aren't fucking like growing up. Like you have to leave your parents at some point. Can't sit there and always like have mummy and daddy to fucking like rely on and count on. Like one of you, like some of you are meant to be fucking like parents yourselves soon, or probably already. Like you're meant to have kids that count on you, and some of you are still like overgrown kids yourself. Like at some point you gotta fucking grow up. So I don't envy people that made it in crypto pumps. I know fucking so many. You know, I know guys that made it on fucking like Hex, all this shit. Like complete idiots that fucking like just invested 10K in Hex and locked themselves up, so they've been getting like massive dividends every like now and then. And yes, that protocol is obviously blown up price-wise, like crashed, but they're in like such a low price that they're still in massive profit. So but I don't envy them. I don't fucking like hate them for making it either. I don't think, like I said, I do pity them to a degree. I think that they have the potential to become exceptional, but I think that only a small amount will do it. I know a lot of people that have made it in a crypto pump and then fucking like taken a round trip back to being broke because they don't have like fucking a network substance. They don't have like fucking like a foundation. So it's hard to be rich. It's hard to like know when to sell. It's hard to know when to fucking like buy back in the market. You need discipline. A lot of people don't have that, or they just end up like addicted to trading because they have a few good trades and then fucking blow their whole account up. I've known guys where they've been in like well into the 7 figures and then blown their account up to 0, and they don't even have like a good job. They're on like 30K a year. So it would take them like 200 years to make back what they already just lost. So it is difficult for a lot of these crypto guys. I know many crypto guys that have fucking like blown their life up in this bear market, that made like millions of dollars in Luna and that, and then stayed locked up in Luna, like trying to take like 20% a year annually, thinking that, oh yeah, I'll just put 2 million in that and I'll live off the 400K. And then they blew themselves up and like lost like 90% of their money, because by the time they could sell, they lost just fucking tons of money. So I know that it's hard. You know, it's difficult. It's hard in crypto too, because a lot of the guys think that they've split the atom, like that they're some fucking like money man or financial wizard, and a lot of them are just lucky. Like I can say that I've made fucking millions in crypto. I've been around guys that have made, I managed fucking like with partners, but we still managed like nearly 100 million, you know. So I know people that have made it and people that have lost it. So no, I don't envy them. I've made many people millionaires in crypto. Our fund, I'm not saying I did it myself, but our fund made many multi-millionaires. So I don't envy them, but I also don't fucking like, I would hope that they use it to become something. They now have the potential to become something, so. What are your thoughts on what happened to FTX? What happened to FTX with Sam? I think that it's very much just a case of what I say. A lot of these guys that pretend to be moral saints actually have massive skeletons in the closet. It's a strategy. A lot of guys run around and act like some church boy, but then it's a strategy because they're like got a fucking computer full of child porn. A lot of the guys that pretend to be real moral saints are actually ones that you really need to fucking watch, because it's a fucking like gaslighting you, where you're like they'd never do anything wrong, but secretly they have massive amounts of shit going on, like skeletons and fucking like bad ideas, and they got a lot of guilt. I think he was specifically just painting himself as one narrative so that people trusted him, and then fucking blew everything up about them. Apparently he had Alameda or whatever, and he wasn't like fucking liquidating their positions, so he was letting them stay in liquidation, and then if the price went back up so they were in the positive, they could close. But then what happened was, obviously they were liquidated on a lot of positions, and then fucking like the price kept going down, so their liquidations just like caused a massive cascade. Not only they fucking like had to eventually liquidate them, but they didn't have the money to cover the positions like that they'd lost. And then they were fucking like using FTT, like their native token, which is just a token out of thin air, relying on the exchange to like get more money, like get loans. So obviously when the exchange blew up, the token's gonna blow up as well. And then their loans are gonna be fucking like massively fucking like, they're loaned at $40 for an FTT token and the price is like $2. So they've lost like what, like 98% of the value. So they're completely fucked. Their debtors are gonna be like chasing them because they're in the States, so there's gonna be consequences. Like Sam's gonna get fucking fucked. Like you can't fuck people in the US like they're US based. They're not some like little shitcoin in the Bahamas or some shitcoin in like the Caymans or like fucking like Seychelles or something. You can't fuck around in the States, and you can't fuck retail in the States unless you're certain people. They're obviously not. The fact that they're getting investigated for criminal charges, I imagine they'll be laid. That's the game. You know, a lot of these people that act like a certain way and they paint themselves a certain way, you need to be very fucking careful of them in life. A lot of the worst people in the world that I've ever discovered are people that act completely immoral, act like fucking saints. Like a lot of the priest or whatever that has like the closet porn addiction and shit. It's fucking a tale as old as time. A lot of guys that I used to sell dope to were like fucking like real straight edge dudes, had like wife and kids, and then I used to have escorts that sold gear for me, and that's pretty much part of how I fucking like made massive amounts of money, because they'd sell it at a massively inflated price and the quality would be very low because it was just the guys that they were fucking. And then a lot of their clientele would be like rich dudes with families and like guys from the church and shit. And then they'd be having like fucking benders on blow, like fucking chicks with no condoms, like chicks that are escorts, and then going home and fucking their wife. So I know shit like this. I know that a lot of these guys fucking don't stand for anything. It's just a strategy to make money. I've seen it firsthand. A lot of the degeneracy is actually done by people that fucking like are painting themselves much the opposite. At the higher end, the lower end degeneracy is done by the fucking like peasants, yes. But on scale, it's done by like the fucking Epsteins. The guys that present completely perfect, donate to charity and all that crap, because they're the experts. They're like painting all this fucking picture because they're doing the opposite. It's a strategy. Religion itself for a lot of guys is a strategy. Like it's a fucking way that they can present a certain way to get people's trust. A lot of people who are ballsy in the church, like that's what attracts them to it. They get power, they're around power, but also they can smoke screen their behavior. I know that, because I've fucking seen it a lot of times. What do I think about grown men playing video games? I'm not going to say that I fucking never play games, because I've played fucking, if there's a new Fallout, I always play it. If there's a new fucking Resident Evil, I always play it on PlayStation 4. If there's like a fucking new, what other games? Maybe like Diablo, I always play it. I've always played every time they've come out. The Last of Us, I play that. But no, I haven't played really any other games. So I have my games that I'll play, which probably means that I play like one game a year or something. So I'm not saying it's complete garbage, but obviously it's shit. You know, I don't agree with a lot of guys watching like anime or video games and shit like that, because in general it's escapism and it's infantile. But if guys wanted to do it for a brief time, like if a guy tells me he unwinds doing that shit, and he's like, oh, I don't do it for more than like an hour a day, I understand that. But I don't think guys really are like that. I think a lot of guys play it for like just the fucking addiction, like an escape, and they can't control themselves. It takes a lot of their time away from doing other shit. and also encourages like infantile behavior, which is like rampant through the West, and also here as well. Like even the guys here, like I'm seeing a lot more infants running around. And I think that, yeah, it's part of it. They want you watching cartoons and shit when you're a fucking adult. And that's like you're gonna regress. Like it pushes you back. So yeah, I'm not one of those guys that's gonna tell you that it's complete fucking like, if that's how you unwind, that's important. Like you can't fucking like work non-stop. That's fantasy. Like a lot of guys will say just work fucking every second and then you'll just burn out or like implode, or it's no longer fun. Like fun at all. You have nothing, you've got no escape, and that's how shit can happen. You find an escape that's worse than video games. So, I think that it's not fucking completely terrible. What are the fastest ways someone can ruin their professional reputation in 2022? Well, some sort of scandal, obviously, like if you get outed as like some fucking drug addict, or like you try and fucking like fuck your boss's girl and get caught and it all blows up or something. Those sort of things. The fastest way a guy probably ruins his reputation amongst his circle is to try and fuck like someone's girlfriend, or fuck someone's like girl or something like that. Guys don't like that. Guys in general that are influential and powerful, they don't like fuck boys in general. I don't. Like I don't like to have fuck boys even around me. I don't like to be out with a guy and he's like hitting on every chick that moves. It's quite insulting, specifically if they're out with their friends, like guys. I think girls in general, like you bring them with you to a club. You don't sit there and fucking like hit on every chick that moves. A lot of guys think they're good with girls just if they like fuck a lot of girls. That to me, that doesn't mean that you're good with girls. To be good with girls, you have to be cool with girls. It means that you don't talk to like a guy's girlfriend. You don't talk to a guy's like fucking girl that he's with beyond just like a very, very fucking small talk, like hi and bye. That's it. A lot of guys chase validation from their friends' fucking girls, and that's dumb. Why is fentanyl everywhere and why is it so dangerous? Well, fentanyl's everywhere, I guess, because it's synthetic. It's very hard to detect. Like, it's very easy to fucking import. Like, you can import, like, kilos of it, but you only need, like, micrograms to fuck people up. And I think that it's everywhere. I think that a lot of it is like somewhat of a op from China. I think part of it is introduced from there. I imagine a lot of it's made there. I'm not saying I'm an expert in manufacturing it there, but a lot of that shit is made in China. And I imagine they push a lot of it over to America and places like that because it fucking destroys the people in general. Like it's a very addictive drug, but it's very dangerous as well. So it has a massive cost, like for the government. Has a big cost because like they have to fucking like treat people, and it's got like a social effect. It's got an effect where, yeah, it degenerates society, but it also like fucks the people up so they're earning less money and paying less taxes and things like that. So I would imagine part of it is pumped from somewhere like China and they bring it over and introduce it to a lot of fucking people. And it is a dangerous drug. I fucking watched a chick overdose on fentanyl once and died. We couldn't fucking resuscitate her, like nothing could fucking work. Dead, young kid. So it's a fucking real thing. You know, if you get hit with it, like if you fucking like do lines or something and fucking there's fentanyl in the bag, you might not be able to see it. It might just be in like one line and it's like fucking just some dust that you can barely see. And you need that like Narcos or whatever, the spray. You need it fast or you're fucking dead. Doesn't matter if fucking like the paramedics are standing over you, you've got some doctor there. It's pointless, like you're fucked. You need that shit to counteract it or it's all over. What are your thoughts on porn? That's a good question. Thoughts on porn is that it's fucking terrible. My thoughts on porn that if you're not like filming your own, I think that's like cool. I like that. Filming a chick, something's sexy. But if you're fucking like watching it, consuming it, it teaches you to watch. Like it teaches you to be an observer during sex. So I think a lot of guys when they do fuck, they can't fuck. Like they're used to fucking watching porn. It's very different to having sex. A lot of the shit you'll watch in porn, if you're like learning from it, it's not shit like women really like that much. A lot of guys say like women like really rough sex, like really rough. Like I fucking know all about that. But I'm telling you, like if you're going too rough, like they're not liking it all the time. You know, it's a lot of the porn now. It's quite extreme. Like if I've fucking seen it here and there, it's getting more and more extreme. When I was young and the internet was still quite new, it was just like really fucking tame. Like you'd see some tits maybe, and they'd be fucking, but you couldn't really see like what's going on. Now it's like fucking 4K, like fucking everything's happening. You can see it all. It's almost like you're there, and it almost teaches you to be like a cuck. Like you're watching, and you just furthering yourself from actually getting laid. Like you're putting a barrier in front of yourself again. So it's another thing, like another wall that you're sitting behind. So I don't agree with porn. I agree with fucking filming girls, and like maybe you watch that from time to time, like it's sexy because you've fucked a girl before. But I don't agree with like like fucking watching it, random chicks and all that crap. I think that's fucking dumb. I think that it's bad for your mind as well. It's very demotivating. I think that it's almost like a reward, but like you haven't done anything. Like there's a lot more to having sex than just like getting a load off. Like a lot of more chemicals get released when you're fucking. Like you're like close to her. It's almost feels like you've conquered something, like you've achieved something. I feel like if I fuck like an 8 or like an 8 out of 10 and like the sex is really good, I feel like on top of the world. I feel like, you know, like I've accomplished a lot. But if I like rub one out to porn, it's not nearly the same. You feel like quite like unhappy with yourself. Like, you know, on like a fucking like biological level that you've like, this isn't what men should do. Like sit in a fucking room with your pants around your ankles watching fucking porn. That's pretty fucking embarrassing. And that's not to say that I've never watched porn. And I'm not one of those guys that gets on here and lies about saying, oh, no, I would never do that. I would watch it fucking extremely rarely. And maybe like once a year or something. If I was like fucking really into it. But yeah, it's very rare. I think a lot of you guys watch a lot of these guys and they just lie to you. Like I know guys that get on here and just bullshit you. Because I've met them in real life and they're fucking very different to what they say. So a lot of guys will say like they don't fap or they don't do any of that crap. They don't understand it's just a sales strategy to recruit guys that have shame around their body. A lot of guys are shameful. And if you can recruit shameful guys to follow you or like buy your shit, they're going to be very good customers. Because they have like fucking massive shame inside themselves. A lot of them have a lot of guilt. And guilt and things like that, it's like if you're running a cult or something like that, they're the people you want to recruit. So I know how shit works, like how fucking people's mind works and how people recruit people, all the shit that fucking like works, the best strategy. But I just come here to tell the truth. So that's life. Fapping's very fucking normal. Porn is very unnatural. It's not good for you. The last time I watched it would be very fucking long ago. Not this year. A very long time ago. I think as I get older, I watch it less and fucking less because I know how bad it is. I know it puts you further away from sex. But it's also like, it's like a stain on the soul, you know, like watching, just know that it's fucking wrong. So I don't fucking do it. And that's from someone who sold dope. So even I say that shit's wrong watching porn. Consider porn, if someone tells me they had a night on coke, I'd be like, yeah, okay. But if someone tells me they had a night watching porn, I would consider that much worse. Because at least the other guy's out fucking doing shit. The other guy's sitting around with his pants around his ankles, jacking off. That's fucked up. What do I think of university degrees? I think most are crap. Like most degrees are bullshit. But some, like STEM, are very fucking valuable. Like science, tech, engineering, maths, I think they're very important. Medicine, I would put that in there as well. But I think many of the other degrees are crap. Like they're just sold like capitalism crap again, where people just think that they have a title and it's bullshit. Like someone's running around telling me they have a master's in fucking like marketing or some crap as though they're ahead of me. And I'm like, I make $1 million a year and I was in school till year 9. What the fuck are you gonna tell me? I know the shit that works in the real world. I don't know, there's some fucking crap textbook that I got given by someone who like is just programming me to be a lifelong like fucking student or like fucking cuck. Like a lot of people don't realize they're just programmed to be like a slave at uni and then school itself. They're just programming you to be a peon, like a cog in the wheel. There's not really free thought, it's not really encouraged. A lot of guys that have degrees, they just parrot information that they read. They don't have any like free thought themselves. If you ask how things work, they don't know outside of like the textbook fucking shit that they were told. To me, you don't know anything if you can't like explain it in layman's terms or understand it if things change. Like if things become fluid, a lot of these guys with degrees don't know what the fuck they're doing. I know business at every level. I didn't need a master's in business to make fucking $10 million. That's crap. But I think, yeah, the STEM degrees, medicine, all that stuff's very important. I think it's very needed in the world. And if you're smart enough to do it and you're disciplined enough to do it and you got that sort of mind that fucking like it excels in that sort of field, it's not a waste of time. You can contribute a lot to the world. It's not all about being some fucking like megalomaniac fucking worth $100 million running around. Sometimes it's to be like a fucking engineer or something that builds shit. Like you look and be like, this wasn't possible without me. You know, it's not all about making money. Some people have different things that they want in the world. Sometimes, like if you're in medicine or something, like you have more respect if you're like saving lives or like making shit better for people that are in massive amounts of pain. It's not about fucking everything's not about making like $1 million a year. Some of them only make like 80K a year. A doctor in the army or something, but they're saving people's lives. You know, they're making people's life better. So I would say that they probably have more of a net impact on the world than someone who's just like some megalomaniac that owns 100 houses. Not everything's about like just stacking wealth. I think a lot of guys just slam degrees in general, but people just want different things. Like everyone has something that they can fucking throw into the world. Part of why I get so rich is because I do give to charities and things like that. I just don't fucking like run around telling everyone every fucking second. But yeah, a lot of it is just to give back, you know, it's part of it. If you've got a brain that can fucking do STEM and all these things and you can make the world a better place in some ways, I think that that's a very fucking admirable field. I think many of the other degrees are just dorks running around so they can say that there's something that they're not. Like it doesn't matter to me if you got some crappy degree and like your value's still low. Like if you go to some fucking like dork on fucking like 40K a year and then you've got heaps of student debt and then you're just running around telling me but your job like doesn't really do fucking anything. It's pretty pointless to me. A lot of it is just, they're just selling a title, but then again, like it's a very inflated market. Like the degrees get like fucking easier to get over time and there's more and more people get it, so the degree itself gets worth less. The job itself can change so that there's less demand for it. The job's like, the network itself's fluid. A lot of people are getting degrees in fields that are pretty much going to be dead in 10 years. So I think that, if you're a STEM guy, you've got the brain for it, I think it's admirable and you should do it.